I'm Joey.
I'm Jason.
And this is Metal
Monster
Review. Today we're getting back to the Universal Horror Monsters Classic Collection here. In previous reviews, we've discussed Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and just their outlook on pop culture and how they're just synonymous with Halloween. Well, here comes another classic monster that falls into that category. And today we're going to discuss the 1954 movie, The Creature from the Black Lagoon. This is a monster movie classic. This is one I'd highly recommend for all monster fans. It just has everything that you could possibly want in a monster movie.
It's Universal's last monster movie too.
Correct. And it's also was the first 3D underwater movie that was ever made. Well, to my knowledge. So that's a totally cool aspect. So what you have going on here is this. In the beginning of the movie, you have these archaeologists, anthropologists, I'm not sure exactly which, but they're digging up fossils and they end up stumbling into this fossil, and it looks like almost like a mix of an arm, but that between a human arm with scales and looks like claws. And they're sitting there trying to figure out, is there some evolutionary link between man and fish, which, obviously we know, like, here there's not, but in this one they're thinking, well, this has to be some type of man-fish. So they're digging up these fossils, trying to find the remains of this skeleton, and they figured, hey, throughout years, whatever was down here end up falling and crumbling down, that these rocks end up landing in the lagoon. So they venture off into this lagoon to do a study on, these rocks and everything they found here to see if they can do some uranium test here to identify some of these fossils with these rocks, and end up stumbling into a manfish scale monster, also referred to as the gill man. Jason, would you like to talk a little bit about the creature?
They did a real good job with the effects on this creature.
Yes, they did. And
for 1954, even the little things, when he's out of the water, he's trying to breathe, you can see his throat like expanding and going back down.
You can see the gills on the side of his head just expand out. And who did the effects? Well, for the creature itself was Bud Westmore, I believe was his name. And they were treating him like he was modern day, the new Jack Pierce. Now, the design of the creature was created by a female, and I can't remember for the life of me what the hell her name was, but they brought that drawing into perspective here with Bud Westmore's creative ability to do the special effects makeup and how they came up with it. And so you mentioned, like, when you take that breath with the gills there, they actually had a series of tubes that would just expand to make it seem like the gills are expanding. It was just like tubes that would come up through and just compress air and push out some air. And the mouth and everything in the mask was all foam rubber, so it would make his mouth open. It was really a cool effect.
More about the creature. They had two actors play the creature.
Yes.
One for the underwater scenes and one for the land scenes. And the underwater shots, to me, is what makes this movie.
Oh, I can't disagree with that. They're really cool.
I can definitely see Spielberg getting some inspiration from this movie.
And I want to say a lot of directors have had some influence from this film, because this one is highly influential. You have this underwater monster here, you know what I mean? And you mentioned Spielberg a little bit ago. Do you think some of the camera angles and things that they were used from Creature may have influenced him to, like, using Jaws? Because you see actress Julia Adams above the water, you can see her swimming, and just the creature swimming underneath her, looking up at her. Well, remember the opening scene of Jaws, with Chrissy out there swimming, and you can see the POV shot of the shark looking up at her.
To me, that's one of the creepiest things about this movie. For me, I hate being in open water places like oceans or lakes swimming, because I don't know what the fuck's down there.
No, it's all, you really don't. I mean,
like I said, you shot that movie. She's swimming. The creature's right below her, and the guy playing this creature underwater, he must have studied some goddamn fish or something, because the way he swims, he does it so gracefully. It's
and you're right. And
it's not like he's just lumping through the water swimming. He's actually like swimming like he's a fucking fish.
And you're absolutely right. I'm
And
allowed.
even doing one part when the two doctors go into the water, he does what an animal would do if your territory is invaded. He like swims to cover and goes in this seaweed shit. It was like, well, that's kind of cool.
That is. I want to elaborate on something that you mentioned here. You mentioned about the graceful swimming. And the actor playing in the creature in the underwater scenes was Rico Browning. And what a phenomenal swimmer he was. And, you know, it's not like just me where I just float around the water and drink beer. You know, that's, as long as I'm maintaining some sort of buoyancy, you know, I'm okay here. You know, well, I mean, I didn't drown, so I'm all right. You know what I mean? But you're right. I mean, he was a phenomenal swimmer, you know what I mean, back then. And you mentioned earlier about they had two actors playing the creature. You had one underwater who was Rico Browning, but the actor that they used for the on ground scenes was actor Ben Chapman. So I thought that was kind of neat that you did have two different actors playing the same monster. But I just love that look of the creature. I think that has really held up throughout the years here. And you see different creature from the Black Lagoon merchandise too. You know, they had the creature from the Black Lagoon pinball machine. Have you ever actually had a chance to stumble into that or see that?
No, I haven't.
That's totally cool too. But even think about it, you know, with creature from the Black Lagoon, do you think that would have influenced like for the creation of Swamp Thing?
Possibly.
Perhaps Predator? And I just love how he's actually, you know, they come into his habitat here. And as you mentioned a moment ago, you know, he's like, you know, trying to duck, dodge, and hide, the old Three Stooges reference there. But, you know, he's just trying to, you know, stay away from everything here. And they begin pursuing him. Well, they end up drugging him. And they wanted to bring him in for capture. And I thought that was totally cool how they have the monster just walking around all groggy. You know what I mean? And then they kept him in that little that bamboo cage.
This will hold him.
Yeah. We gave him some tape. We gave him some tape and just put it on there. But it's a lot of cool scenes here in this movie too. Is one I like in particular is that after we mentioned a few minutes ago about, you know, actress Julia Adams swimming and him watching her, and she gets out of the water, climbs back onto the boat, and they had their fishing net out. And they could feel the boats being pulled, and they're thinking, well, what the hell? We got caught in here. And there's this huge hole in there, and they find a claw. You know what I mean? Where he was stuck in there and just ripped his way out. And I always thought that was a really killer scene.
Yeah, I think my favorite scene of the movie is when Kay's in there swimming, and he's so curious, the creature, and he's slowly reaching to touch her leg and pulls his hand away. Then he actually grazes his hand across it, and she's like, what the hell was that? And she dives down, and he gracefully swims away.
Yeah, she sensed his presence. You know what I mean? She sensed the presence of something there. But this is a really killer movie for sure.
And this was like a big turn for the Universal monster movies, because a lot of them were like gothic settings. This was actually like in the Amazon, like a adventure / horror movie. I thought that was kind of cool too.
Yes, I mean, you do have a lot of adventure aspect to it for sure. And they try to get away, and the creature ends up blocking the exit for the lagoon, which I thought was pretty clever because he did not want them to leave. And they were all fighting for their lives to get out of there. And there was a lot of really cool special effects here done too. And once again, I've mentioned time and time in past, I love practical effects.
Me too. Looks so. I mean, you could tell the work all them scale plates the creature had. And like I said before, and you said about the gills moving and the throat expanding and going back in. And I think that was some pretty good technology for back then for the suit, for the underwater scenes, from him being able to be that flexible.
Oh, exactly. Think of how many hours it would take to put into that just to get into the suit, get the makeup and everything done. That would be tiring alone.
I said the creature looked amazing. The only complaint I have about the special effects is that goddamn bat. When they were in the cave, you can see the goddamn string and the
yeah.
I don't think a bat makes that noise. Like, you put all this effort into the creature. What the fuck do you do to the bat?
Another thing too is that the main theme music gets overplayed constantly. Every time his hand comes up, dun dun dun, you know. And you'll hear that over and over and over. You know, he comes up to the, comes up on the boat, dun dun dun. And it gets a little annoying there because it's so redundant, but it's still a pretty good film overall.
You mentioned the theme song. This theme song is actually used in multiple movies too. It was actually used in King Kong versus Godzilla.
You're right. You are right. I have heard that in that movie as well.
I know back when I was younger, I'm a big Godzilla fan. When I watched that King Kong versus Godzilla movie, that theme song was embedded in my head. Then when I seen The Creature from the Black Lagoon, I'm like, I know this goddamn song. That's how I found out. I even went to double check myself. Watch King Kong versus Godzilla again. They use the same song.
They do, without a doubt.
I think that's because Universal, they did the American dub version for King Kong versus Godzilla, so they had the rights to all that shit, and they threw that music into it.
Yeah, that's true, because you know what? You did hear that in that movie as well. But it's just so overplayed, though. I mean, it's really redundant to hear, but hey, it's still a great film overall.
And even spawned 2 sequels.
Yes. And a little cool bit of tidbit trivia here is what famous actor had his starring role? Well, he didn't star, I guess I have to rephrase that. He was in one scene as a laboratory technician.
Clint Eastwood.
Damn right, Clint Eastwood.
Thank you, Mystery Science Theater 3000. that's where I seen that on.
That's right, Clint Eastwood plays a lab tech in there. So many years before Outlaw Josie Wales and so on and so forth, here he is playing a lab tech. And you know what a big name he became here. So that's a pretty cool piece of trivia that, hey, he started off, with Revenge of the Creature, which that might be a fun one to review sometime down the road. So, do you have anything else you'd like to add about Creature from the Black Lagoon?
And for you ladies out there, there's an awesome ass shot of David swimming. I'm not talking bare ass, but when he's swimming in the water doing like this frog swim, like the camera's like just facing at his ass. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, that's enough for the guy's ass. And it makes it worse. He had these little booty shorts on.
What are you saying? You bought a pair? Or?
This is another going back watching this movie, how far technologies came when David has that camera under the water. You see how goddamn big that thing is? It's like fucking 4 feet wide. And it's like, geez, I'm waiting for him to have like a backup light or something on it when he's like, God damn, nowadays you got these tiny little cameras. He has this big behemoth. Like, oh my God.
This giant box camera, and they're just like carrying it around, just shifting all this weight.
Yeah, but I mean, this isn't a blood-soaked movie, but for at the time, the special effects on the creature looks amazing, and the underwater shots. That's what, to me, that's what makes this movie, is all them underwater shots.
Yeah, and that's what's totally cool about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird because, like, well, I shouldn't say it's weird so much, but I'm glad to see that this is held up. You know what I mean? That most people have heard of Creature from the Black Lagoon. You've stumbled into that name. You've heard about. But like I've mentioned earlier, so many of these Universal characters were synonymous with Halloween, and I'm glad to see that the monsters are still around and they're still somewhat relevant. You know what I mean? Everybody's heard of them.
I know they were a couple years ago. They were talking about a remake of this movie. And the late Bill Paxton was supposed to play in it, but it never happened. And I remember when Monster Squad came out, and they tried to bring back all the Universal monsters, and they had like a revision of the Gill Man in that movie. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But definitely check out Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's a nice, cool adventure horror movie.
Oh, be sure to do that. You won't be disappointed. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Joey.
I'm Jason.
And this is Metal
Monster
Review.